Today, we are going to go down the rabbit hole of illusions and why the idea, the understanding of illusions is really important to your spiritual awakening. I'm going to be answering questions like, what is the concept of illusion? How did it happen? Okay, how did we even get here, right? Why do people have such a problem with the idea of illusions? Also, can illusions be helpful? How can they be helpful? Why are they possibly helpful towards our spiritual awakening? And how can we get out of illusions and back to truth? So lots of stories, lots of discussion, answering those questions in today's episode. So let's get started. All right, my name is Gavin Weber, and this is the Onement video podcast. Now, you might be listening to this on a device. I'm putting it in both places, going to have it on YouTube, going to have it on Spotify to listen to. This is more, like I've said before, designed to be listened to. But if you want to watch on video, you can, but you could do it while you're walking, driving. It's designed to be listened to. You're not going to miss anything with your eyes of viewing. So don't worry about that. Now, this is episode number 3, and I'm tackling the subjects that I think really matter towards this movement I've started. And episode number 1 is really why the Onement was started. Onement is a oneness movement. And episode 2 gets into what oneness is and a deeper look at that. And so today I thought I would tackle probably the hardest thing for most people, and I would put myself in this category, to understand, to really get their minds around, is illusions. And I fought this for years, and I'll get into those reasons. And I understand why a lot of other people fight this concept too. If you're a Course in Miracles student, it's a big, big part of what is taught. And if you follow other spiritual teachings, it's really big, I'd say everywhere, just possibly used in a different terminology, like dream state, all right, is something that you hear a lot, or asleep, for looking at illusions. So let's just, first question, what is illusion? What's the concept of illusion, the idea of illusion? And this isn't about magic, okay? This isn't sleight of hand and a magician, with the illusion of this, but, they're just doing something with sleight of hand. It's kind of a trick. Now, you could use the word trick, that this is a trick of our mind, that this world that we think we see, and that everything that's going around us. And right now, this is, funny. I actually will, sorry for the people listening to this, I will put a picture, but, let's just talk. This is a paper brick wall. It's not real. I'm in my garage right now. It looks like, an office, this table. I've joked about this before. It's a card table with what looks like wood taped to the top of it. And I'll put a picture on the video if you want to go ever look that up, or you can see it right now, of my garage and where I'm filming. But everything is an illusion. And what we think we're seeing with our eyes isn't the truth. And essentially, we're making it all up. Our minds are projecting onto this world everything that we think and believe to be true. And so things like bodies and relationships and money and materialism and stuff and cars and houses and clothes and all these things that we need to then protect the body and find happiness and the pursuit of meaning in life and purpose, all of that is an illusion. There's nothing that we need to do to actually, truth is, okay? So there's nothing that we can do to stop truth. And believe me, our minds are absolutely doing that right now, is trying to distract us, to avoid it, to forget it. And therefore, we have the experience in these bodies, in this apparent world of problems. And then all we do is like analyze that problem, and we tackle that problem and come up with things like goals and to-do lists and all these things. And ultimately, like this video is an illusion that you're watching. A Course in Miracles is an illusion. Like, it's a book with words in it. And, then like, I'll get into, like, people are like, whoa, what does that mean? And well, then nothing has any meaning, and what's it all for? And I'm going to go into that. But it's really important on the path to spiritual awakening to understand that just because we think all these things are real doesn't make them real. And I think the best analogy there is when you hear this all the time, if you're a spiritual student, is we all, we go to sleep at night, and most people dream. And what's crazy is, like, my wife remembers her dream every night. I rarely, maybe like once or twice a month, I wake up and like, oh yeah, I remember my dream. I just like go to sleep and I wake up and it's like, the time is gone, which, some people love their dreams, but some people say that's a blessing, because a lot of dreams are nightmares. But essentially, imagine waking up from that dream that you had while you were sleeping, and then thinking it was real, and you worried about it. You actually took steps to change what was in that dream, and you, participated in the dream in like your everyday life. Like, most people would be like, well, wait a sec, that was you were sleeping. Why? What are you doing? Like, you don't have anything to worry about. Like, that wasn't real. That was just a dream. And I want you now to apply that to this world that you think is happening. It's the exact same thing, but it feels really darn real. I mean, I can touch, my skin, I can smell, I can see all these things that I think are happening. Yet that whole time, there is another level of like awakening of like when you wake up from your dream sleep, that you can really understand, like, oh my gosh, like, I made that all up. That was just a story. It wasn't real. It's not the truth. And I bought into that hook, line, and sinker. And like, I suffered and had anguish and had fear and hardship and pain and physical health issues. And I went through a pandemic and relationships and death and all this stuff. And it's like, no. And if you've ever read books on near-death experiences, you see, a lot of people talk about, I find it fascinating, like they go to the light. And then like sometimes some people have like a life review, and it like goes through everything. And it's like looked at from this perspective of watching it rather than not being in it. And then like all was well. And that like everything was like actually taking them back home, and everything was helping them, trying to help them remember the truth. And that's the thing, is like when you hear the concept, like we're choosing love or we're choosing fear, you can look at everything's conspiring to help you wake up from this dream and experience truth, regardless of feeling like you're in this body or whatever's happening in this world, and being happy with not needing anything from what we think is contingent upon happening in order to find happiness, or conditional happiness is what I call it. None of that's, true. And so our lives, our events are trying to like help us wake up, like nudging that. Have you ever been in like your sleep dream and it's bad? I had this one like about a month ago, and it was really bad and really scary. And like I had, like, I'm not even going to go into it, but essentially like somebody I cared about was going to get hurt. And I felt like they tricked me, and it was just like, and then I knew I was dreaming. I wanted to wake up. I was like, oh my God, please wake up, please wake up. Like, this is awful. And when I woke up, I was like sweating, and like, I felt like I had experienced it, but like, and then like within a few minutes, I could be like, it was just a dream. And guess what? We can do that here. This is just a dream. Quantum physics is in the process of proving this. This has been around for years. Like when you study atoms, it's like everything that like we're thinking and what we witness, it like changes based on what we think and what we're witnessing. Even though like looking at an atom changes the atom. So it's all thought, and that's a whole nother video. But it's been, the process or the idea, the understanding of illusions is already out there. And for you to wake up and possibly like a word like enlightenment and to be connected with God and to experience oneness, you have to first understand it's an illusion. Because if you don't, you are going to then analyze everything as possibly fearful or like what you need to do or have tos or goals or conditions or feeling stuck. And you go down that rabbit hole and you're participating in the dream. And so hopefully, most people who are watching this video, I understand probably already know some of that, but I just wanted to go into a little bit more detail. You have to understand that this is not real. This is not who you really are. This is not the truth. It's a story that we've bought into, and we can remember that. And that's kind of the thing. Like, how do you remember and how do you let go of this story? That's scary. And I can understand that. So let's talk about how it happened. Like, how did illusions even begin? Well, A Course in Miracles talks about like there was this tiny mad idea that we had this split-second thought that was instantly, by the way, like fixed. The error was corrected immediately. But that we like, what if we could be separated from God, from love? And for like that split second that happened, and it didn't really happen. That was an illusion too, but like just even that thought. And that's what's happening is like we've separated this, created these bodies, these minds, this world, and there is none of this, right? And it's our mind, just like our ego does not want to like buy into that, because I'll get into the next thing, why people don't like it, but it really challenges everything about then our existence. And really that challenge though is covering up the truth. And, at some level, we are choosing this dream world, this oftentimes nightmare, staying asleep rather than all the evidence, the signs, the knowing that we are truth. We're home at God right now. We are love. We are oneness, right? And I do believe there's been many people who have walked this world that like have experienced oneness and are living in truth, and who are still in the appearance of this world in this body, but they don't live like everybody else does, based on conditions, based on have-tos, based on bills and goals and success and all these things that we all think are going to make us happy, that rarely ever do, or do for a second and on to the next thing. But when that tiny mad idea happened, that was the separation. And with that separation from God, like that we could be separate from God, which isn't true, but the thought, then we felt extremely guilty about that, because it was like, oh my gosh, this is awful, right? And that was a world of duality, of good and bad and evil and, fear and love. And so it's like the contrast, all the different things. And so it's like in this world, there's all these teachings like, well, the contrast is like what makes it so good. It's like, really? Does it make it good? Like, yeah, like there can be some really like fun-filled times. It was like, oh, this is amazing. I'm having the time of my life. And then there's other times like, this sucks. Get me out of here. I've had many, many days of like, this sucks. And I often talk about like that part of the reason why I'm on this journey is like, I've had this life that like what most people strive for. And I'm still like have an issue, right? And I'm doing this in my garage, just being real. I've got a delivery. I'm hoping he doesn't ring the doorbell. And oh, perfect. Sorry. But we feel, like we're separated from God. And then guess what? We feel separated from each other and from one another. And then it's like everything we do in like relationship is like to fulfill that void, to fill that lack, to fill that disconnection. And so we think like in relationship, we can find ourselves. We can complete ourselves. What was that? Jerry Maguire, you complete me, right? And that's a facade. That's an illusion. That's not real. That gets nowhere. And like our truth is in our thoughts, in our mind. And nothing here is the reason for our guilt and that separation besides that we think that happened, and it hasn't. So hopefully, I'm a big A Course in Miracles students fan, and all of these concepts I'm talking about are really explained in there. And I'm going through some deep stuff quickly, quite frankly, in a podcast video format. But I feel like you don't have to spend hours dissecting it. It's like eventually your mind, whether you hear it once or hear it 10 times or 100 times, your mind is going to say, you know what? Yes, I want to live from that. I want to, have that experience. And then, you don't need to go searching for all this evidence out there, all these things to have happened, all this need and attachment to then come back to who you really are, to experience oneness and to let go of the illusion. Like eventually, like everybody gets there. It's just how much pain or contrast or duality do you want to experience before you do? And I created the this oneness movement because I want to experience oneness. I want to walk the world coming from love and no fear, and to be the beacon of that, the example of that, and not from ego, but from like possibility and from truth. And so therefore I'm teaching it because I admit I'm not having that experience all the time. I've had it a lot, which is why like my belief and my knowing in the miracles that have been created in my life have given me the evidence I needed to like go this direction. But ultimately, I don't have to create a Onement to awaken. I just feel guided that that's part of my process to help me get there. And therefore, I'm following in that intuition and that inspiration and looking to get out of the illusion of separation through the Onement, is one of my methods. So why don't people like it? I used to hate it. My wife is not like, she's a spiritual person, believes in illusions, but like if I bring illusions up, it's hard for her. It was really hard for me for a long time. I would like really understand it for a while, and then I'd be like, nope, that's just too much for me. And then I'd go back into what I would call the physical world. And the reason at first, the idea of like that this is all an illusion is there's two things that happen. Number one, it's like, well, if that's true, that's scary to people because they're like, well, I can kind of get behind this world and I think I understand it. My eyes tell a story that I believe. So that feels like, you've got your stuff together. It feels like a little bit of control. It feels kind of meaningful and purposeful, like this world. I'm doing stuff in it and I'm having experiences. And then, but back of our minds, we're all like, well, gosh, like really, like we're born, we go have some experiences, then we die. Really? Is that it? Is that our life? And I feel like, anytime we have those thoughts, people are like, well, no, that's morbid. Don't be thinking about that. And so then they don't, but they're just avoiding like the illusion, the story, the separation, why they're experiencing pain and difficulty and hardships. So the first reason they don't like the idea of illusions is fear, right? Because they don't understand anything other than that. The second thing is like, it feels like a lack of meaning. Like, well, crap. If this is all like, why do I do anything? Nothing matters, which there's truth in that. And I could go into that, but it's like, I like the idea of thinking that everything I do has meaning and there's a reason why I do it that makes sense and like the logic. And so they feel like the way they look at the world gives them meaning and purpose. And if they thought everything was an illusion, that there would be no purpose. And it took me years. That was me for a long time. And what I'm about to, go through with you the rest of the video is why that's not true. And that like understanding illusions from a deep level is the pathway out, is the answer, is the way to joy and happiness and to have, holy encounters and experience the holy instant and to be one again. It is the answer. It is the meaning. It is the highest purpose that you could ever imagine, right? It's that gateway to God. It's either you understand you're one, you're love, you're God, you're connected to God, and that's your truth, or you believe in this world. And there's no in between. And like, that's hard for people. And I so get it. But when you do start understanding the meaning behind illusions, everything changes. And you realize your mind and your thoughts and your past beliefs have kept perpetuating the same story, the same movie that you think is happening, causing that and having those effects when doesn't have to be that way. Right now is joy. Right now is truth. Right now is oneness. Right now is peace. Right now. And really, what's happening, why people don't like it, is the death of the ego. It's the death of the self. That like, they feel like letting go of, like this world means they're going to die. Like, it's like, no, like, well, what about my kids? What about my, job if I like it? What about my stuff that I like? What about vacations? What about, their mind goes to all the like good stuff, right? And even that story is not necessarily true. We're, all going to be giving up those things eventually, but giving it up, that's the different perspective. It's not giving it up in the form. Like, it's giving it up into like the attachment to that's who you are. And when you can sit with that, there's no conditional things that like you experience in this life that defines your truth. And that's the problem with the illusion is we associate the things that happen in our life with who we are. And then no wonder when things don't go the way we want, we feel like crap. We feel disconnected. We feel alone. We feel separated. We feel fearful. We feel things don't go the way we want. We feel lost, right? And so, of course, then when you feel that way, you're going to feel bad. But if you let go of the illusion, then right there in that moment, there's nothing in this world that is conditional upon you experiencing your truth and your happiness and your joy and your love. And every great word I could describe of radiate light, like you can get back to that in this moment of reality, of truth, having nothing to do with this world. So do you see why it's so important with illusions to let go of them, to experience your truth? And I'm going to go like a movie, okay? I just watched a movie a couple of days ago called Tenet, and I'm not even going to pretend like I completely understand it because, I was telling my wife, I was trying to explain it to her, and I was like, babe, I don't even understand what I just saw. I just saw like a CIA action movie, which I love, that was extremely spiritual. And it was about the illusion. And it was about like, part of the illusion is that like time doesn't exist. There's only eternity, but we look at everything as like linear. And then like when we were born and then when we died and everything in between, and there's only now. There is no past, there is no future. Everything that we think that's ever going to happen has happened right now and is already done. And that's a whole nother subject too. But in this movie, the actor, or I guess the person in the role, he thought he was a CIA agent and he had to save the world, right? It's always save the world. You got to make it the most dramatic thing. And so as he was involved in this saving of the world, he started seeing some weird stuff. Like, he was in these beginning scenes of like, thought he was going to save in. And then there's like all these backwards things happening. And like other people knew what was happening or what was going to go on. Almost they'd predict it. And then he was confused. And then he had the experience that he died. And then he woke up and they're like, oh, we saved you. And I'm not gonna take away the whole movie, but dude, like they didn't really portray it this way, but like he was in so many tough situations, and it always seemed like he would die, right? And then it'd go to the next scene, and he'd be good again. And again, I feel like if maybe fast forward a little bit if you want to watch this movie, I still don't think like it'll be much of a spoiler. But it was like almost, this is the cool part. No matter what he did in like this, basically they felt like they could go, oh my gosh, it's hard to explain, but like they could go like into the future, but then like going in the future is also like going in the past, and they could go and like change things, or they knew what was going to happen. So they would keep changing that. And the bad guy had the power to do that. And so he was making everything go the way he wanted. But in order to save the world, they needed the bad guy. And then they had it in their mind, like there was only this certain way it could go to like stop the bad guy, because he could actually end the world with what he knew. And if he didn't like the world, he was just going to end it for everybody else. And so they made it seem like, okay, once again, it has to go this way, and like it's coming down and it has to go perfectly. And then it doesn't. So you're like, oh, the world ends. But it's like, no, there was like another, there was like another possibility that existed. And essentially, like what I got out of it, without ruining the movie for you, it's like no matter what this guy did, it wasn't wrong. And the world went on. And he could do as many different things differently as he wanted and change it. And everything was going to be fine. And that it was just like a story. And he would just keep popping back up in the story. And then he started getting like his feet under him. It's like, oh, it's just a story. I can change this, or I can do this. And it was like he stopped experiencing fear. He went back and actually did something they said was reckless. And because he wanted to change something like in the past. It's mind-blowing. But when you watch that movie, what I got out of it was like, we can't mess this up. No matter what, like this world that we think we're creating, it's always going to be here in this physical form because we're the ones creating it. And we can change our mind about the form and get different results and have success and meet goals and make money. And yes, we can do like this thing called manifestation and the law of attraction. Of course we can, because we're making it all up, right? So it's a dream, and we can change the shape and form of the dream. But the problem with our happiness is like we understand like on a deep level that it's not real. And like only love is real. We do, our soul level, our mind level, our God level understands that. But like when we participate in this world the way we do, thinking it's real, we've forgotten that. We're asleep. And therefore we participate in the physical pain, the mental pain, the hardships, pandemics, like that. There's this airborne like virus that can then kill us or kill a bunch of people or hurt us or make us really sick and have trouble breathing. And then like, if we don't take care of ourselves, we're going to hurt other people. And I know it sounds like I'm mocking, right? But I'm more just trying to like share like, oh my gosh, this perception of this story being created. And then the answer is everybody has to get this vaccine, and that's going to solve it all. And we're just going to participate in all of these things like mask and like fear, and then like inject something into our body that then is going to solve everything. And then we're going to go back to the way life was. It's all insanity. And like, we look at movies and we're like, oh, it's just a movie. Oh, it doesn't really, like it's just a movie. Look at, they messed up this or that doesn't make any sense. But then for our lives, we're like, no, this is real. It's way beyond a movie. And, there are consequences and we could die. And like, we have to do this a certain way. And when other people don't, that is bad. And we judge them and we make them real. And when we make them real by judging them, we are judging ourselves. And we are like, basically admitting to our lack, to our ability to die, and our non-truth. So many movies, it's just a story. Our life is this story, and this story has a happy ending. The Prince Charming finds his princess every time. No matter what we do, we can't mess it up. And in that movie, that was like, at the end, you're like, okay, they said when this didn't go the way it was supposed to, that was going to be the end of the world. But then like he woke up again, he didn't die. And like there was something else that happened that it all worked out. And that's the thing, like I said at the beginning of this video, this podcast, is that we think everything is life or death, that this has to be done this certain way. And we can either look at everything, I think Einstein said this, is like everything is a miracle or everything as not a miracle and like fearful. We're home. We're already home with God. We're home with love. We're in bliss, but our minds convince us that we're not, and we make all this real. So, can we constantly remember and let go of the illusion and experience bliss in this physical form? To a degree, we can. It's never going to be, the absolute truth of a non-body, because in this world, there's always going to be some level, no matter how much power and possibility you tap into your truth, it's never going to compare to the absolute truth. But we don't have to stay asleep. We don't have to experience fear. We don't have to live a lie. Be disconnected. Do things the way that this society and people think it should be done, and that we judge ourselves and judge other people. Why do you let your kid that? Do you, vaccination, like it's a polarizing topic in my house, but people vaccinate, and why do some people don't? Why not? Conspiracy theories. And like everybody likes to think their way is the right way and other people's the wrong way. And guess what? It's just another example of creating separation, the disconnect, the distraction of truth. And it's everywhere. And this is the part that blew my mind. This is the hard part. It's in the stuff that everybody would agree is good too. It's like that. As soon as you get into duality and comparison and what's good, there's always better than good, right? Oh, it's like, this level of money is good, but this level, $1 billion's even better. And like somehow like that's a higher level of abundance. So if there's a spectrum of abundance, then there's somewhere on that spectrum is of severe lack, which then most of the world like is somewhere in there on like abundance. There's only absolute abundance. And that's what we get caught into in the illusion is like, oh, we love people. It's so good to like love people, right? And But most how people love people is like, it's a judgment. Like, oh, you treat me the way I want. You've given me something. I depend on you. You depend on me. We love each other, right? And like, that's not love. That's attachment. That's conditional. That's need. And our true source is that we are absolutely peace, love, joy, one with God, to a level of such bliss and joy, and that has nothing to do with the body, that when we remember over and over and over and over that it's an illusion, that we then get to experience truth over and over and over. So that leads me to the last question. Two questions. Can illusions be helpful? Absolutely. Why are illusions helpful? Because they're helping you reawaken. When you can remember that this isn't real. Course in Miracles, like a lot of the first lessons, like, what that desk, the meaning you give that desk or this book or this couch or this sweatshirt. Like, I think I'm wearing this sweatshirt because it's a little cold out here. Like, so I feel like, oh, I have the feeling that I'm cold, so I need to wear a sweatshirt. Then I'm also kind of thinking like, what would look good on camera? What would be comfortable? And then I was like, I don't know. I don't even know what this thing is. I don't know if I should have that on video. And then it's like, I'm analyzing again and I'm like, I'm back in illusion, right? And so we all do it constantly. And when you can remember that, you can kind of come from this place of like non-attachment and like, which then that's replaced by joy. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I put on. It doesn't matter this shirt. And there's so much meaning in that. How do we get out of illusion and back to truth? Course in Miracles talks about forgiveness. And a forgiveness, how they talk about it is like that everything's innocent. Another way to look at it, everything's neutral. Everything's the meaning we give to it. So if we're creating this world based on guilt and separation from God, then kind of the way back to it is to let go of any idea of guilt, that any of this is real, that we've caused any of this and made it real. It's not. And then when we let that go and remember, then it allows the space for truth to enter. And then when we forgive and basically say like, oh, that person that I think just, really hurt that person, like, if I can remember, like, that didn't really happen, and actually I can see them as love, then I'm seeing them as the reflection of truth. And when I judge them and make them bad and they did that, I'm judging them, which is then causing like this mirror effect of like, that's me. I feel bad about myself, but I'm gonna deny the separation. I'm gonna deny the guilt by putting it out there, and what everybody else does is wrong, and I'm a victim. And then you're stuck back in the illusion. But when you forgive, see the innocence, let it go, realize it didn't happen, then right after that, simultaneously actually, you can become a miracle worker, because you can instead allow truth to enter our mind and what we think we're seeing and replace it with love, replace it with truth. So then everything we see out there, we're mirroring back to what we really are. That I didn't get that job. Perfect. It doesn't matter. All is well. I'm still love. I didn't need that job to fulfill a void of love. Oh, our kid did something, I didn't like. I see the beauty. I see God in my kid. I see God in other people's kids. I see God in everyone. And therefore I see it in myself, right? I am letting go of the illusion. I'm replacing it with truth. And talk about meaning. I mean, this is where it gets exciting. This is where like the aha and the like, oh my gosh, with the Course in Miracles, that I'm like, everything is an opportunity for forgiveness, which is an opportunity to experience truth and an opportunity to allow miracles to unfold. And miracles are not like, oh, we pray for this to happen this certain way. That's participating in the illusion and asking for like something of need, like it's admitting lack. But when you come from like allowing, like the Holy Spirit any kind of like guidance, angels, I don't want to get caught into like, those words, but when you allow love to enter your mind in any situation in this instant, you're allowing miracles to unfold however they unfold. And when they do, you are the witness to them and you're like, holy crap, oh my gosh. And then your mind starts like, yeah, that's truth. Oh my gosh, yes, that's truth. And what I used to be scared about, I'm not as scared about it because I just remember that miracle. And like you do this over and over and over and over, and your mind starts opening it up to the word that keeps coming is truth. I'm understanding who I really am. And like what I think I saw wasn't real. And I just replaced that with a miracle. And then it's like illusion after illusion gets dissolved, gets let go. And it allows space for something so much more miraculous. I hate to use the word better, but like beyond what you could even think is imaginable. And then you start trusting, like, I don't have to have things go the way I want. I don't have to like make it this way and have this go this way. And then when you start trusting that a little bit, then it's just like, have it all. Like, I give this over to you, Spirit. Just like guide me. These videos are me giving over my life to like Spirit and to like experience, like I said earlier, what I want to experience. And so I'm just following that guidance and like, it feels good. It helps me remember. And the illusion slowly, depending on how, willing we are, how ready we are, gets dissolved. And in its place, all the things that we thought this world by doing stuff would give us start happening naturally. Without effort, without doing, because of it's who we are. And we get to allow the experience of our truth to become blatantly apparent in every moment and every day of what feels like time, to every encounter, to every relationship, and on our way to spiritual awakening, to be in this world but not of it, to participate in such a different manner of no need, but the expression of that which we are, bringing love to every situation, giving, 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 because in the giving is us of reality, of love. There is no limitation. There is no lack. And like, then we get to experience that. Like, we're not worried, concerned at all about what we can get. How can we give? Because then we get to experience our truth, our oneness, our connection with God. It's pretty cool. So, yes, forgiveness is the mechanism. Kind of talked about that with oneness. It helps let go of the illusion and then bring meaning to every situation as the path back to God, to reawakening. How more meaningful can that be, right? Like, we give meaning, like we think we understand this is why we do these certain things, and then everything comes back to like that we think it's going to bring us some level of happiness, joy, or abundance, right? And then we think, oh, we do that, and then we don't feel that way. And then we're like, what the heck's wrong? So then we just continue to do more and more of that without ever looking at the illusion, the like falsity, the garbage of that story and that belief. And we can nudge ourselves and wake up, tap it, and experience it right now. And how we do that, I know I'm being repetitive, but we cannot hear it enough, is to see the illusion, to realign with our truth, to see the innocence in everything, and to allow miracles to come in each moment. It's so freeing. It feels so good. I'm better at it. I have a long way to go, but I'm excited. We get to do this together. That's why I'm creating this. Other people who want to awaken, experience one-ment, to study like A Course in Miracles or other things. It's a oneness movement. We're not alone. We get to like unite and like share this with this world that we think is happening. And I have felt lonely, and I have felt separated, and I have felt like I can't talk to friends about this. Here I am. One of my solutions to that problem that I feel guided by Spirit to do. So I would love for you to subscribe. I would love to leave a comment, to like this, help me put this out there. Thank you so much for listening this far. I think, I don't know, 50 minutes in. I honor you. I see you. Whether you feel this way, you are absolutely innocent. All these things that we think we're doing, we're home with God. We are truth, and that can never be changed. And our path to awakening is to remind ourselves of that over and over, to let it go over and over, to heal, to then grow back into what's always been. So, much, much love, my friends, my friend, all of us. We are one. Until next time, many blessings. Bye-bye.